And we are live. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night even. I don't know where in the world you are and watching this, but thank you for tuning in to the World Sports Chiropractic Chat Show hosted by FICS, the World Sports Chiropractic Federation. My name is Mika. I'm your host again this evening as per usual. And today I have an absolute pleasure of introducing Dr. Simon Lawson from South Africa. Simon, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks, Mika. Lovely to chat. I'm really looking forward to this. Really is an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
No, it's phenomenal to have you on the show, actually, Simon. I obviously met you a couple of times in the past, even in flesh, not just through Zoom and various different fixed functions as we kind of do. But always been lovely to have a chat with you about various different things and all the stuff you do for FICS, of course, massively appreciated. So for those who don't know Simon, Simon is basically a bit of a chiropractic sports chiro all-star from South Africa. You know, what does your rap sheet say again? Hold on, let's get that up. So we'll get this thing up and running. So see what you do. There you are. So we've got oh yes, of course, the ISF Federation for FICS. That's of course a big thing for you, and used to be a president of Chirosport South Africa as well. It says there, and that's probably the grandest title I've seen on anybody's thing so far. President Emeritus Chiropractic Association. That sounds really grand. Goodness me. President Emeritus.
You sound quite old, I think.
Yeah. Well, you kind of maybe, yeah. Is that why you have Corona cut? You know, you got all the grays away.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Low risk Corona, the Corona cut.
Oh, that's all good, man. Excellent. But there we are. So you've been a chiropractor for a little while. You qualified already in, was it 99 you qualified?
I did, yeah.
Absolutely. You studied down in South Africa or abroad?
I studied it in Johannesburg. It was a bit Waterstrand Technikon at the time. It's now obviously become the University of Johannesburg. Yeah, and we were actually the second year to go through that institution. Oh, wow. So most of it was done with a blindfold on, but we got through. But it was good fun. We had it was an adventure, that's for sure.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, being a bit of a trailblazer.
No, yeah, we were. A lot of makeshifting going on there.
Well, you just make it up as you go. You know, that's the kind of typical good old sports chiropractic motto, isn't it? You know,
exactly. It was good preparation for the time at FICS.
Yeah. If you're not really sure what you're doing, you kind of just make it up.
Yeah, it rolls.
Or maybe we need to edit that bit out. Maybe that didn't come out just right, but you know what I mean. No, absolutely. And then you did your sport. MSc Sports Medicine as well. You popped over to UK to do that a bit later.
I did. I guess with inevitably with most best laid plans, everything goes a bit awry at times. But my initial incentive or plan was to actually go to the UK and do the diploma of chiropractic, which the BCA offered at the time. And the BCA were actually very, very much involved with setting up the curriculum in Johannesburg and in South Africa, actually. Okay, yeah. So as a gesture of goodwill, they actually acknowledged our degree because obviously we had no international recognition at that stage. So I thought it'd be a good idea to pop across the UK. Quite a bit of family over there. Go over there for a year, do this diploma of chiropractic. And at least I would have some kind of more of an international feel to my qualification. And then obviously I was going to return to South Africa and change the world. But as things happen, 1 year turned into 7. And I ended up at Nottingham University doing my MSc in Sports and Exercise Medicine.
Oh, that's brilliant. Excellent. And you survived Nottingham?
I did. I actually did. Under the watchful eye of Ulrich and Jonna. Ulrich Sandstrom, you guys know. Luckily, they took me in under their wing. Luckily, I was staying in student accommodation on the opposite side of Nottingham from them. So I think they only knew half the stories. But certainly going back to university at the age of 30 was an experience that was certainly worthwhile.
Oh, well, there you go. No, that's great stuff. Yeah, I had Ulrich was on the show actually just recently. I think he might be a couple of weeks. His episode might be coming up a couple of weeks before yours. But no, we had a good old natter with Ulrich as well. He always has a good rugby story. That's the thing.
Yeah, a good man, Ulrich. Really is.
No, absolutely, good stuff. But hey, let's talk a little bit about games and FICS specifically. So obviously you've been in charge of the ISF commissions, so the International Sports Federations side of things. So tell us a little bit about what that actually means on sort of practical level.
On a practical level, okay. Maybe a little bit of history. It used to be the International Sports Federation Commission, and basically the role within that was to engage with international sporting federations and strike up relations and try and create connections with them in order to try and sign contracts and get them to engage with FICS, to have FICS chiropractors work at their World Championship events. The idea of that was then to mushroom that into multi-sports games, and then obviously grow and grow. Initially, there were two bodies. There was the ISF, which was the International Sports Federation Commission, and the Games Commission. In the last 2 years, we've brought those two together. So now Games sits under the International Sporting Federation Commission as a subcommittee, along with the GAFES and World Games Liaison, which Brian fulfills that role. And then the International Sports Federation, which kind of I oversee. So there's sort of three subcommittees under the umbrella of the International Sporting Federations Commission. The games function really is to advertise and promote games that we have secured, get volunteers in, make sure that they set up properly, they know where to go, they know what's expected of them, and really to organize the feet on the ground. That's overseen by Tim Ray. Then, as I say, Brian looks after GAFES, which is the Global Association of International Sporting Federations, and the IWGA Liaison. I'll come back to GAFES shortly because that's quite an important body that probably needs to be elaborated on. And then, as I say, I sort of oversee the International Sporting Federation side of things. So that in a package is really our kind of the functional arm of FICS, if you want to call it that. That's kind of our soldiers on the ground, getting the message out there and doing the sort of roll up your sleeves and get stuck in type of stuff. So let me come back to GAFES quickly. Essentially, to be a member of GAFES, you need to be an international sporting federation. And if you're not a member of GAFES as a sport, you basically don't exist, or you're not seen to exist. Which is quite interesting because I don't think a lot of people know that or understand that. There's a number of different tiering levels within GAFES. The top levels are obviously your Olympic sports, your summer and winter Olympic sports. Then you get a level down, which is those that have been accredited but are not actually fully fledged Olympic sports. And then you drop down to sort of the World Games, which is AIMS, I think they call it. And then there's one level lower than that, which is basically a recognition by GAFES that you're on the map, you're a sport, you need a lot of development and a lot of help, but at least we recognize you as a sport. Now, obviously, in those different tiering levels, you get a certain amount of support from GAFES, and behind the scenes, you get a bit of support from the IOC as well. And the idea really is to try and grow your sport, firstly within your regions, then within your continent, and then obviously globally. And I think there's sort of measurements are done on number of competitors, number of spectators, and obviously number of participant clubs, regions, etc. that go with it. And obviously as those numbers swell, you can move up the rankings. They've got two divisions of membership within GAFES. One is obviously the actual international sporting federations, of which there are close to 100 members. In fact, I think there's over 100 members now. So it's over 100 recognized sports in the world. And then you get associate members. And I think there are about 20 associate members. And we are one of those. FICS is one of those. Okay. And we have been for a substantial amount of time now. Now, the interesting thing about being an associate member is that within your field of what you offer as a support or a service to the sports federations, no one else can come into that realm.
Ah, I see.
According to GAFES. So it's going to be interesting at some point when the sports physios, for example, who are starting to get their act in together and are trying to become recognized, when they move towards GAFES and try and get recognized, it's going to be interesting to see whether they actually take the sports physios on, because in essence, we work in the same realm. And according to their statutes, we fill that realm already. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. At the end of the day, it's all politics. I'm sure there'll be a little side door somewhere. But the whole idea as an associate member is that you are there to support, offer a service to those international sporting federations. And GAFES are going out of their way to support all of their members. So whether you're a sporting federation or whether you're an associate member, they really are putting their sort of cards on the table and saying, right, how can we help to promote you, your services, what you do, how you can help the rest of the members within GAFES. And certainly for FICS, that's massive. You know, we've been doing a lot of legwork, and certainly if you date way back to people like Noel Patterson and Daniele Bertomini, these guys have been working with GAFES and Sport Accord for over 30 years, 40 years, to try and get us closer and closer to ultimately our big goal, which is IOC, full IOC recognition. What we actually mean by that is that we no longer have to apply or work through local organizing committees to provide chiropractic services at the Olympics. We become part and parcel of the agreement of the Olympics. So, for example,
included in the infrastructure.
Absolutely. So a bit like the contract or the agreement we have with the World Games, we are part and parcel of the World Games. So a really good example of that was in 2009 in the World Games in Kaohsiung in Taiwan. Chiropractors are persecuted in Taiwan. So chiropractic is a no-go. So when they were signing the agreement, obviously the local organizing committee went through and they were talking about medical services and all the rest, and started to see, hold on a second, what is this chiropractic FICS thing that you've got written in the contract? And they goes, well, that's part of the agreement with the World Games. And they went, no, we don't do that in Taiwan. And oddly enough, or fantastically enough, the World Games turned around and said, well, if you're not going to take that on, you don't take on our agreement, we'll pull the World Games.
Wow.
That's big. That's big. So they signed the agreement, and off we toodled to Taiwan. Brian was the chef de mission, he was threatened with his life. We were under strict watch all the time because they obviously thought we were kind of, I don't know, CIA agents or something. But I mean, every hotel foyer we walked into, there were some guys in suits reading newspapers with holes cut out in the newspaper. It really was as ridiculous as that, I can promise you. Every time you walk down the corridor and you're about to walk into your hotel room, you just heard a door behind you go, and you look back and someone would be scuttling the fire escape. I mean, it was just a bit surreal, but they were watching everything we did.
In a way, that's quite funny.
Yeah, I know.
At the time.
No, listen, Brian did not sleep for 3 weeks. And every team meeting that we had, the guy was sweating, begging us, please guys, just do not do anything that is out of our scope. we are being watched from every single angle. So, I mean, we were walking on eggshells as well. But quite a funny story. I was working at the Korfbal, and it was finals day. And I can remember we treated the British team a couple of times through the week, and they were getting ready for the final. And we'd been given these old school wooden short-legged plinths to work on,
Right.
with a nice sort of synthetic leather covering on top of it. And anyway, they're about to go on, and one of the guys runs through and says, "Listen, can you give me a quick loosener? Just my back's catching a little bit." I said, "Sure. How much time we got?" "No, we got a couple of minutes." I said, "Great, come through. We'll go through to the back room because there's a spare bed there." Now, in the interim, Taiwanese TV had come in, and they were doing a little bit of a clip for Taiwan news, the late night news or whatever it was. So they saw this going on, and they come running through the camera behind us. So I get the guy there, do a couple of tests and whatever. Okay, great. Lie on your right-hand side. Lies on his right-hand side. Go to do a side posture. As I adjust him, the bed makes the most almighty crack you've ever heard in your life. And it literally breaks in the middle. Now, the British korfball player he was pretty sharp, I have to admit. But as he heard the bed crack, he went, I just froze, absolutely froze. And obviously the cameras are right on top of it. He then packs out laughing, gets up off the bed, and off they run to go and play the game. I'm now in a puddle of sweat because I think, oh my God, Brian's going to jail for sure. So I quickly got on one of those little burner cell phones that we had. I said, "Listen, Brian, I need to give you a heads up. You need to go and hide. You need to do something." But the Taiwanese news channel were filming when I adjusted this guy, and the bed broke, and he made an almighty noise and sounded like he was in pain. I think Brian just about creased himself. So luckily, we only had 2 days to survive, and we managed to get out of there without Brian getting arrested.
But actually, you know what, that probably explains why Brian has that little sort of funny twitch at times. You know, he looks over his shoulder, and that he's still thinking Taiwanese are going to get him. Oh, that's amazing, that story. That's really cool, man. Do you know what, we were in CSIT games a couple of years ago, and in where were we? Riga, Latvia, and it was really quite a slick operation. So Tim Ray was running this one, and he was there with his with the Tim's Angels, you know, Lottie and this Canadian girl was there. So they were kind of like the organizing team, and so everything was smooth as anything, you know. And then so Tim obviously gave us every day. He gives us this, you know, the pep talk. You know, don't do anything stupid, and you just, you know, toe the line and do as you're told, and everything's going to be fine. Then he walks into so we were at this volleyball arena, and there's me and Tom Greenway and Rene Fischer from Denmark, and a couple of others who had joined us then for that afternoon. And in comes Tim, and he sees this one girl has an activator out. It was a shriek I have never heard in my life. It was like rugby tackles this girl to the ground. Just, put that away. That's not in our mandate. You know, don't anyone even grasp anyone. You're not allowed to do that. So you're only allowed to do your manual soft tissue and manual adjustment. You're not allowed to use any tools. That, like, oh hello. But that would make a lot more sense after you explain that.
Yeah, no, we were under very, very strict conditions, eh? But geez, that was a great World Games. We had lots of fun.
Is that true though? Because a couple of years ago, was it that somebody did FICS send a team to South Korea, right? And well, I mean, I heard a rumor about it. I don't know if this is true or not, but they said that the chiropractic compound was essentially declared international territory for the duration of the games, because I think South Korea chiropractic is also illegal. Is that true or not? I don't know.
I don't know about the South Korea story, but certainly I think our hotel was considered an international zone. I think certainly there was a lot of undercover presence, and as I say, everywhere we went, like you look over your shoulder, there was something strange going on.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But it's amazing when you actually don't. I think when you don't fully comprehend or engage with what's actually going on around you, you're actually oblivious and you carry on. But when you look back, gee, there was some weird stuff going on there.
Oh, there you go. No, that sounds phenomenal. But so you've been involved with quite a few of these games, haven't you? You've been to a lot of different events.
Yeah, I went to my first World Games in 2005 in Duisburg. Yeah. And I'd done some smaller minor events for FICS and loved that. I'd done a lot of work for the British Chiropractic Sports Council when I was over there. But Duisburg was my first kind of real proper multi-sport FICS event where I was kind of fully fledged. I guess my first experience really was the 1999 All Africa Games in Johannesburg. But I literally had just popped out of university. I was incredibly wet behind the ears. And I probably most of that 2.5 weeks with my jaw wide open. But yeah, again, what an amazing experience. I think we had close on 60 chiropractors working there, and we must have had 15 to 20 chiropractors from around the world. Wow. So for us South African students who really didn't have a lot of exposure to anything beyond our little microcosm, that was mind-blowing. And to get to work on athletes of that caliber was also just an experience beyond.
And also, I suppose, rubbing shoulders with the top names in sports chiropractic at such early stage in your career, that must have influenced you quite a bit and kind of showing you the ropes and giving you experiences to really drive you further.
Hugely so, hugely. I mean, I can remember. I remember a story from there which still absolutely blows my mind. I got posted to the athletics one night towards the end of the athletics schedule. And they were running the 200 finals that evening. But we got down onto the warm-up track and sort of set up, and we were waiting for a couple of athletes to come along and whatever. And this Nigerian guy comes over, kind of really full of himself, bouncing around. And he says, you chiropractor? So I said, I am. He says, great. He says, I'm going to come see you at 6:15. And this is what I need done. I got a C2 on the right, C3 on the left, T4, and I need my right sacroiliac. And I looked at this like going, you got to be kidding me. Like, whatever. You come at 6:15, we'll check you out. We know what we're doing, and whatever needs sorting out, we'll get you ready for your race. What are you doing? No, he's doing the 200-meter final, and he's feeling good for tonight. So, okay, great. Well, we'll see you 6:15. Clearly, this Nigerian was in college in the States and had obviously been exposed to chiropractic and knew exactly what he needed and all the rest of it. So anyway, I sort of kept looking at my watch, and eventually, cheers, nuts, 6:15 comes along, and this guy marches across the field, comes straight up to me. So I said, right, let's check you out. Did I check him out? Cheers, nuts. Every listing he gave me was bang on. So did what the man needed, and he got up and he went, oh, that's fantastic. He says, tonight's the night. He says, I'm going to bring you back the gold. So I said, sure thing, mate. I'm behind you. Cheers, nuts. And he broke the game's record as well that night. And that for me was just like, wow, okay. So this is sports chiropractic, and this is what FICS is all about. And certainly I think that was a little bit of a fire that got me going. Yeah.
Wow. Now that's a hell of a story. I don't know if I haven't heard a better one yet. Actually, that's a great story. I'll be sure to pass that on to people. That's absolutely phenomenal. Wow. But you know what? So what's the kind of obviously FICS does games at, there's, like you said, there's multiple tiers. So of course, World Games and the Olympic Games are the sort of top echelon where everybody wants to get to at some point in their career. But of course, you kind of start from slightly lower down nowadays. I heard, something you guys had cooked up in the ISF Commission there, which was the sort of tiering system and point system for the games. And so now you have to do a couple of smaller games before you're cleared for the big games. So what are the sort of smaller games that you can do?
So let me start by sort of maybe kind of giving a clearer idea of what we've envisaged as a tiering system and as a tiering structure. Initially up front, we really would encourage guys to get involved with the NCSEs. That really, for us, is our volume. It's our grassroots, spreading the word in your local areas and in your local communities, getting involved in particularly the sports that we've got contracts with, getting involved with them on the national level within your country. And we've already got the international contact. So if as an NCSE, you want to get involved in these sports, but you're battling to get a contact locally, get in touch with me. I'll give you the international contact. We'll work downwards from the international to the national, and you can work up from the national upwards. And if we can lock those two together, we really do have the sort of perfect synergy. We can then get bodies on the ground at a national level. That gives you experience within that sport. It grows sports chiropractic within your region and your area. And then it starts that filtering up and that tiering system to reach the next level, which is sort of world championship level. And then from that level up to your multi-sport events like the World Games or the Olympics. You know, on that, slightly below that level, you've got things like the CSIT games. You know, we're working on contracts with World Masters games, the Youth Olympics, the student games. So those kind of sports would be on the sort of the same level as the World Games. And then obviously the pinnacle then is obviously the Olympics. But, you know, we need to gain traction, and we need to get what we do out there. And I think Brian alluded to it in his chat with you, is that we've still got a long way to go. We've still got a lot of legwork to do. The work we've done is incredible, and the contacts we've made and the connections that we have within world sport are phenomenal. And a lot of them are solid, which is fantastic, because they've got our back. But we still haven't done the volume of legwork that's required to gain the momentum to get us up the ladder. And that's really, I think, what the next phase for us, certainly from the ISF side of things, is just try and grow that base. And the more we can get you guys involved in local sports, in your local teams, in national championships, the more the word is going to spread, and the more people are going to start looking for sports chiropractors. And ultimately, at the end, one of our biggest playing cards to get into the Olympics is when the athletes turn around and say, listen, great polyclinic, we love it, but you know, the one thing that's missing are the sports chiropractors. Like, we can't perform without the sports chiropractors. Now, if just about every athlete at the Olympics said that, it's a no-brainer. You can play all the politics you like. The athletes want it. Guys will make sure it's so that's the encouragement, is to try and get guys involved on a national level. Obviously there's sports, we've got contracts with about 24 international sporting federations. Some of those sports are household name sports. Others are a bit quirky, they're a bit out there. But I often find that those are the sports that actually give you the most reward. Those are the sports whose federations are really, really jacked and work incredibly well. And for us to work for them, they really take care of us. You know, there's a couple of sports that we've been in relations with for a long time, and obviously they're working their way up the ladder. And as they're doing that, they're pulling us with them, which is fantastic. And a good example of this, and Brian mentioned this in his chat with you as well, it was speed climbing, or sport climbing, where we got introduced to it in Cali, Colombia. And they were introduced to the World Games in Cali, Colombia, which is 2013. 7 years later, they're in the Olympics. I mean, that sport has boomed. And we've got very good connections and agreements with them. We haven't quite got the full agreement with them to go through to the Olympics with them, but all of their World Championship events, we're in, and we were supposed to be in this year, but unfortunately, our dear friend Coco's put an end to that one. But yeah, you know, if NCSEs want that list, I can make that very much available. And then even as an NCSE, obviously in certain regions of the world, there are certain sports that are very pertinent to your region, which we may not have approached from the international level. So, not that this is a great example, but say for example, in Australia, there's a lot of surfing, or surf lifesaving. Now, we've been in discussions and we've got loose agreements with lifesaving and surfing, but that's quite pertinent to Australia. So the NCAC in Australia could come to us and say, listen, we've got a great relationship with it. Can we bind this together and you get the international agreement and we lock this down internationally? So that's another good example. And as I say, the idea is to get soldiers on the ground, to get numbers, to get feet, to get volume. And then we can start progressing up the levels. So every single one of those 24 sports federations that we've got agreements with, we can cover their national events, which the NCSCs can do very easily. We just got to get organized to do it.
That's right.
And then obviously from a games perspective, we approached the International Federation to find out where their world championships are and whether they require our services or not. We have a standard sort of agreement with them at the moment, which will provide you with accommodation, food, in some instances a uniform or some kind of identification that you are officially part of the championships. Most of the organizations are really good at looking after us. So they'll go over and above that, and they'll personally go and collect you from the train station or the airport or however you've got there. And they really do look after you. Things at the moment are obviously quite tough. Well, at the moment, there are no games at all, but just economically, things are getting a bit tougher. So they were watching their purse strings, but even within that, they were still being really benevolent and accommodating. Our biggest issue is obviously time out of practice and getting people to volunteer that time out of practice. And it's been said before, I mean, who in their right mind takes time out of practice for 2 weeks away from their families, away from earning an income, and eats into their holiday time that they would have with their families to go and work at a sports event, flat out, invariably completely understaffed, but you work from 6 in the morning till 12 at night and you love it. I mean, that's what we do as sports chiropractors. But there's a glaring hole there, is the financial side of things. And look, we've been looking at this model for a while, and there are a number of potential opportunities that we're looking at within the system. And when I say the system, what's happening internationally and globally, particularly through GAFES and possibly through the IOC, there may be some funding there available to us. So we're still exploring those avenues. But I think if we can open up one or two of those financial funding avenues, it'll be a game changer for us. And at least we might not be able to pay you, but at least we can soften the blow a bit, maybe on travel costs, and maybe give you a stipend for being out of your practice for a week or so.
Exactly, that's right. I mean, you know, it's when it comes to young students and young DCs who are just qualified, perhaps there's, you know, they just qualified, they're paying off a student loan, maybe they're paying off a wedding, goodness knows, all these kind of things that, you know, they're real life things, right? Maybe somebody's brave enough to have a kid straight away after college as well, you know, you never know, right? But they cost money, right? Yeah. So then, you know, you're weighing it up and you go, should I take a couple of weeks off clinic and go to a labor camp somewhere in goodness knows where? Or should I just work my cushy clinic and keep breaking in the pounds, you know, or the dollars or whatever they may be? So, okay, yeah, there is always that argument. But, you know, if there's one thing that I'd hate to say I regret, but is that I fell through the cracks myself for a little while. So, you know, after I qualified, you know, it took me maybe 5 to 10 years before I really came back, I suppose, into the sports chiropractic world, and purely for those reasons, I made my choices, you know, based on, okay, what was important at the time, and maybe we didn't have the exposure at the time. We didn't really get FICS speakers coming to uni to tell us what was going on. You know, we didn't get that exposure at the time, which we're now trying to rectify, obviously, through the hard effort from Nat and the student commission, Jill and Chart and whoever else. So everybody's working hard in banging the drum as it goes. So that's amazing, and it's great to hear what you guys are doing and how you're all tying into this greater machine here. That's absolutely brilliant. And of course,
I must admit for me, and you know what you said about you know, as a new graduate, trying to find your feet and get going and all the rest of it. I think one of the things that also just completely lit my fire with working games for FICS, and I think I'm going to particularly talk about an experience I had with the World Games in Duisburg in 2005. I mean, I had quite a lot of experience, more kind of local experience working with the BCSC in the UK, and having done quite a lot of sports chiropractic in South Africa before I'd gone to the UK. But I arrived in Germany a little bit nervous. I still felt really, really green. Like I wasn't really sure whether I was in the right place. I certainly felt out of depth. And we got together that first afternoon when everybody arrived and had our team meeting. And as we were all sitting around discussing, you know, what the procedures and protocols and expectations are, someone comes running out of the hotel lobby over to where we were sitting all in a circle in the sunshine and whispers in Brian's ear. There was obviously some kind of emergency. So he said, right, Simon, and he chose another rookie. I can't remember who it was at this point, but he said, Simon and this other guy, grab a jump bag, you're out of here, go. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not even sure I'm supposed to be here. And now you're sending me off on an emergency to go and check an athlete. And there's nothing more scary or invigorating than being really chucked in the deep end. That was my first sort of introduction to the World Games. I don't think I stopped shaking for about 2 days afterwards. But we managed to sort of get through that and save the athlete. I think it was too life-threatening, but they were fine. But my experience at the World Games in Duisburg, where, you know, you get to team up with people from all over the world with ranges of experience. And obviously there are times where it's quiet and there's some downtime at an event and you're kind of sitting around, milling around, sitting on the benches, and you start chatting. And there were people like, obviously, Brian, Tim Stark, Ulrich, the Patterson boys, Sheila Wilson, who else was there? Sherry Lasham, some really kind of guru names in sports chiropractic who were all part of that tour. And you end up sitting and you start chatting, and it turns out, you know, that Tim Stark, for example, was a factor instructor or a Graston instructor, and Brian was doing grip and rip, and yeah, they all had their little niche and their little nuance, and 9 times out of 10 they were lecturing internationally. Now you're away for 2 weeks, you're doing what you love because you're working with athletes in a completely focused and contained environment, and then when there's downtime, you've got your own little private workshop going on. I got back after 2.5 weeks of being in Germany. I was blown away. I thought, you know what? I've just spent 2.5 weeks doing what I love, and I've probably jammed in 5 or 6 seminars that I would never have had an opportunity to go to, purely because I've been mixed in with guys with knowledge far and wide from all over the world.
That's right.
And for me, whatever that cost, being out of practice for 2 weeks, you cannot put a price to something like that.
That's right.
That experience, both on an academic level and on an experiential level, you just cannot put a price on that.
No, that's right. And I thought, you know, there's that element of, you know, something you said earlier, you know, before we actually started recording, it was very apt in this, and I've been kind of thinking about it myself and reflecting on it. But, you know, when I kind of came into sports chiropractic and that, and somebody who was actually quite influential was Luke Nelson from Australia. So you remember Luke anyways, and now obviously the top man in Australia and that, and but we were on the same FICS seminar in Lausanne in Switzerland, and Luke and I, for some reason, we just got on handsomely well. And there was Dr. Larry Bell and Mike Murray, you know, who were giving a seminar, and a whole bunch of other people there. But, you know, it was just that kind of thing. And I, you know, like you said yourself, you know, you found your tribe. And I felt like I found my tribe, you know, in that kind of, it was like coming home almost. It was that there's none of that kind of posturing nonsense, you know, that goes with when you essentially trying to fit into a place you don't belong in. But I just felt like I belonged exactly where I, you know, right where I was. And with FICS, it's been exactly that experience every single time.
There's no doubt. I mean, again, it's been said plenty of times before, sports chiropractors are a different breed. And I think a lot of it's got to do with our approach to our patients. I think, as I said to you earlier, you know, that there's no such thing as no or can't. I think you said if you've got a pulse, you know, there's options here. There's an opportunity to get you going. But you know, if we can restore function, we can get you back out on that field. Whereas I think your general chiropractic practitioner, by and large, you know, follows a sort of textbook type of routine. And unless you follow or you tick all the boxes, I'm not sure I can really help you, or this is going to take 3 weeks to heal. That doesn't seem to fall into our sort of repertoire. Like, we need to get you out there now. How do we do that? Now, there is a way of doing that. We just need to work out what it is. And I think that's what makes us unique. And you don't see that in any other form of healthcare, and certainly within sports medicine, you certainly don't see that. And I really think that that's why sportsmen and women resonate with chiropractic as well as they do, because there's nothing more powerful than an appropriately implemented adjustment, the right time, the right place to get those guys back out there and performing at their best. I think I said to you as well, we play on the words all the time, but the bottom line is, as FICS practitioners, that's what we do. We fix things.
Mr. Fix It.
We're almost quite disappointed if we can't get them back out there to get the gold medal. That's like we failed.
Yeah. Well, like a Nigerian bloke, you know, it's something that, yeah, all right, fair enough. He would have been disappointed. You would have been disappointed. So, you know, might as well do the deed and get him out there.
Look, I think with that Nigerian oak, I wouldn't have known any better anyway. So I was only just blown away that he managed to bring home a medal, let alone the gold with the game's record.
Well, they're quick though in Nigeria, aren't they? There's a whole bunch of good sprinters that come out of there.
You have to be in Nigeria.
Sorry?
I think you have to be in Nigeria.
Yeah, I bet you're right, actually. Oh dear. But yeah, you know, the other thing is about this whole mentality thing. You know, some might call us gunslingers, you know, somebody might call us, you know, with all sorts of derogatory names, but actually it's almost like, for us, it's like water off a duck's back. You know, it's a badge of honor if somebody doesn't quite understand it. It's like Ulrich said, you know, famously, you know, it just is what it is. You know, if you don't quite understand what happened, but as long as it worked, it's okay. And maybe we are, in that respect, we are a special breed, because Ulrich always talks about his black box, you know, where stuff goes in the black box and then stuff comes out of the black box and usually works. So he doesn't need to know what happens in the black box.
Exactly.
And we're quite okay with that for the most part.
Exactly. Did it work? Yes. Job done.
Ace. Yeah. Did you win a medal? Yes, you did win a medal. You're good.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. There's that. No, there's a great camaraderie in all these events. I mean, and you know, even at FICS level, you know, doing stuff with we're now obviously FICS has evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years with processes and just execution of how we actually operate, isn't it? And so now introducing the whole commission chairs meetings and things like that, which are more regular now. So we're all actually talking to each other, which is brilliant. So, you know, there's that greater camaraderie, which I personally really enjoy being a part of.
Yeah. There's been some massive changes in FICS over the last sort of two and a half years. And yeah, for the better, because I think we were stagnating. In fact, we were stagnating. So to get this kind of burst of energy and input and literally a massive facelift has been fantastic. Been fantastic to be a part of. Been fantastic to watch. And we certainly set up to really drive this thing forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. But hey, listen, you know, one thing I almost forgot to mention here, but the requirements, the prerequisites for being a part of FICS games. So you got to hold an ICSC, don't you?
We do. We do.
That is a big thing, because we got to make sure you don't go out there and kill anybody.
Well, this is it.
Well,
so I mean, what we found is that, you know, what used to happen previously is individuals would approach teams or national Olympic committees and say, listen, I'm a sports chiropractor. I can look after your athletes. Great, fantastic. Give us your CV. We'll have a look. Okay, this guy looks like he's pretty sharp. But inevitably, the kind of guys who were doing that were doing it for the wrong reason. They were doing it for their own personal gain, and they really weren't there for the athletes or for the good of sports chiropractic, certainly. So very quickly, those bigger bodies realized somebody needs to be responsible here, and there needs to be someone who's going to take the fall if something goes wrong. So they were no longer interested in dealing with individuals. You needed to be part of a representative body. Yeah. So that's where the NCSEs started to come in, which is great. So, you know, as FICS, we can lean back on the NCSEs, but what kind of guarantee do we have that the members of the NCSEs are up to a certain level or up to scratch?
That's right.
So that's obviously what necessitated some kind of qualification or some kind of marker that would give us an indication that, do you know what, this guy comes from a recognized institution as a chiropractor, he's registered, and he has a further qualification in some kind of sports chiropractic, and we're happy to credit him at this level. We know that we can rely on this person to produce that level of work as a sports chiropractor. And that really is our sub-minimum. So to work at any international level event for FICS, you have to have your ICSC.
That's right. And that, actually, you know what, there's a lot of smart people out there at the moment who are taking advantage of old Coco, our friend, you know, who came to visit, and we're all kind of, you know, fed up with Coco now. You know, he can bugger off us for all I know. But, you know, so a lot of people actually have been taking up, you know, the ICSC course. So we've sold a fair few of those, which is great. So numbers are up. People are using their downtime very productively, and looks like it's going to be absolutely brilliant with the hands-on seminars as well.
Fantastic.
So we have lots of people coming in for hands-on seminars. Well, I hope so. Anyways, but yeah, so that'll be brilliant. So we have a whole bunch of new colleagues who are going to be joining the ranks and coming to bolster FICS numbers in events, and hopefully we won't have any more shortage of volunteers as well. So
and look, I think, you know, once the doors start opening, there's at least 24 sporting federations that we're affiliated to who are going to want to play catch up. So there's going to be a lot of events available. So, you know, if you want to travel a bit or you want to do something local, I'm pretty sure there's going to be an event that's close enough or far enough for you to attend.
No, absolutely. And that's something that, of course, all these events, they're going to be posted on FICS website. Am I correct?
They'll be posted on the FICS website. Generally, once we've secured an event, we post it on social media as well, just to make sure that it gets some airtime. And we try and filter a lot of that information back through the NCSCs as well. So we rely on the presidents of the NCSCs to disseminate that information through their members to get the word out there. And look, particularly if one of those events is in your region or in your country, we do make sure that we involve the NCSCs. We've got regional reps for on each of the continents, which ideally have good relations with those NCSC presidents already. So there's a nice sort of chain of communication. So there's no reason why that information shouldn't be disseminated all the way through, all the way down into the NCSE membership ranks.
Absolutely, brilliant. So yeah, there's no real excuses for people to not get involved in all of this. No, that sounds amazing. And getting there, like they say, getting your teeth cut early into your career, and getting that, finding the tribe, and getting boosted and energized and ready to rumble as it goes. Oh man, you know what? Coming back from the event into clinic.
I think I got a little bit sidetracked about that tiering system. So the idea really is that for certain level events, you will gain certain points. And that will obviously be recorded in your portfolio. And as time goes on, those points will build up, and you'll get accredited all the way through up to certain levels. We'll probably introduce different color badges for certain levels as you move up, and you'll be able to put that on your FICS shirt. And the idea is that, you know, by the time we get to the more prestigious games, what we might call golden ticket events, things like the World Masters Games, World Games, Youth Olympics, Summer and Winter Olympics when we get there. When it comes to selecting the teams, that job becomes a lot easier, because for those golden ticket events, we need to take the A team. We can't afford to make any mistakes or any errors. We need to be on point, and we need to roll out the Cadillacs. We need to be proper. And obviously, when we've got this breakdown of the events that you've done, how many points you've got, where you're on the stand, that makes that selection criteria a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then we're not randomly selecting people from X, Y, and Z, and oops, we chose the wrong person there, or whatever. We know who's going, what we're dealing with, and we know that that team that was going to that event is the best team that we can possibly put together as FICS. So the opportunity is there. There are more than enough events through your NCSEs or through the international federations within your regions. You can boost up those points. You'll get points for doing things like your ICSE, for partaking in webinars, expanding your knowledge, doing hands-on modules. All those kind of things will give you points. And obviously, the more points you accrue, the more accreditation you get, the more likely you are to be able to go to these events.
Wonderful. No, that sounds like a very fair system, really. And no, I'm really glad you guys thought it up and came up with a killer plan, like they say. No, that's really good, man. Excellent.
And actually, at this point, I mean, I need to thank Jason Pfeiffer, Gillian Johnson, Freya Moran, and my dear friend in France, whose names just run straight out of my head, Audrey, for all their all their help and contribution. Yeah, there we go. For all their help and contribution in putting together that tiering system. Now we just need to implement it, and we just need some games to help us implement it.
Well, yeah. So tell Coco to move on.
Thumbs up. Move on.
Absolutely. No, that's brilliant, man. Hey, listen. I always make a bit of it's a habit of mine, maybe. Call it a bad habit, good habit, just a habit. But I always ask for a few little clinical pearls or a few pearls of wisdom to be shared. What would be your top 3 things to impart and to share with people at this point in time?
Sure. I guess for me, I'd probably start with having ambition and having a passion. And I think it was Steve Jobs who famously quoted, you know, without passion, you will never see success. So whatever it is that floats your boat, whatever it is that kind of gets you up in the morning, if that's what drives you and gives you your passion, that's where you need to be. Because all of a sudden, you know, it's not a job. It's not something you have to do. You don't have to get up in the morning to go see patients. You're up and you're at it because you can't wait to get in and see your patients in the morning, or you can't wait to get on the next trip to go to a FICS event. You know, that kind of passion is priceless, and that needs to be what kind of drives you. So find that passion and fuel it. I think the second one would probably be to never stop studying, never stop pushing your limits, making sure that you're fluid and you're able to kind of adapt to your environment and adapt to your circumstances. And I think that's probably really pertinent in these times. Who knows what this world's going to look like in a few months' time when, as you say, cocoa's moved on. But you know, we might have to rethink. I think within our profession, you know, chiropractic in its essence has been the same for 120, 130 years now. So what we actually do doesn't change, but how we package it and how we take it to market is going to have to be rethought and kind of needs to fit in with the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And again, I think that probably fits into passion as well, because when you're that passionate, it's easy to find the next avenue to readapt and stay fluid and moving. And then I guess my last one would be good old traditional hard work and commitment. You know, I don't think any of the stuff ever falls into your lap. I mean, sometimes you get lucky, but I also believe, you know, as some of you might remember or know a legend, Gary Player, a famous golfer from South Africa, who always said, the more he practices, the luckier he gets. And I think you do. I think you create your own luck. It comes through hard work and dedication. I can remember, I think it was my housemaster when I was at school, the beginning of every year, he used to get us all into the hall and give us a big motivational talk. And it was the same talk every single year. And it was the story about the chicken versus the pig.
Right. Okay.
And he said, guys, you know, these chickens are fairly committed. You know, they lay eggs. So they're there. They're part of the story. They're involved. But we don't really want chickens. We want pigs, guys, because pigs make bacon. And that's a full commitment. You know, I think that resonates. You know, if you're going to get involved in something and you've got a passion for it, the commitment comes with it.
Totally.
You know, get involved, get your feet in there, roll up your sleeves, get stuck in. And there's no doubt, the more you put in, the more you get out.
That's right.
And the more enjoyment you get out of it as well.
Absolutely. It's like somebody I can't remember who said, but somebody famous and somebody very clever, you know, they said that, you know, every overnight success has taken 10 to 15 years to build.
Exactly. Yeah.
You argue with it, isn't it? You know, it's just blatantly obvious, the sacrifice, the building up the infrastructure, you know, making sure you're in the right place, you've got the right toolbox for the occasion. And one day when all the stars are in alignment, you know, that lucky break comes along.
Yeah. You did right. Well, you created it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it, when it's time, when it's due.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, man. No,
otherwise, keep fueling the.
Yeah, exactly. And be like water, like Bruce Lee famously said. Be like water. Always find a way.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting way too carried away with these cheesy quotes now. No, that's brilliant. Hey, listen, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you this evening. I think it's our clock is running for you as well, so it's going to be time for Betty Bites for everybody. Definitely, it's for me. I'm going to have another busy one tomorrow. But thank you, Simon, for your time. Thank you for your commitment and your passion with everything you do with FICS. I really, really appreciate it. You're making my job with FICS a hell of a lot easier. So I really appreciate your commitment, my friend.
Mika, it's been an absolute pleasure. And as I said up front, the honor really is mine. I absolutely love sports chiropractic. I love FICS. Been a member since 1998, I think. So I feel like I'm part of the furniture, not quite as bad as Uncle Brian. But it is an absolute pleasure and as I say, an honor to represent sports chiropractic internationally and contribute towards FICS and be part of this team that's now been created that really is full of energy and full of fantastic ideas. And a really big thank you to you, Mika. This initiative has been fantastic.
Brilliant. Good stuff, man. Hey, listen, let's finish on a high note, and we'll catch up soon. I can't wait for our next little chat together. I'm sure that will come in not too distant future.
Sounds awesome. Look forward to it.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye.